Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Smile. The streak is done. You can go back to PBA. Welcome to a Thursday, Hail Varsity Radio. That is Elijah and his family singing in the background. What's going on? Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Hail Varsity Radio, loaded up for some Super Bowl thoughts. Plenty of, we can keep that playing a little bit. It's too good. Is that the Mormon Tabernacle Choir? Or the Boston Symphony with...
This is the English Concert and Choir.
You went across the pond for a little church hemmage. Okay.
Did you know I was actually the president of my choir back in high school?
Were you sang?
I did, yeah.
Did you keep the mustache too?
No. Well, we were in a Renaissance-themed choir. So we all dressed up like we were in the medieval ages.
Turkey legs and swords, I see.
I tell you what, being in the medieval choir did not get you many girls back in high school.
It's okay. I can't sing or dance, and I landed someone that was well over my skis.
Well, you weren't dressed up like a wizard half the time.
I was not. That's probably key. But no, man, Nebraska basketball handling business 78-65. So raise your hand if somebody offered you tickets to last night and you said, thanks, but no. Now, my excuse was I had to pick Junior up from conditioning. But I could have swung back down and went. Well, Calvin offered me seats. Coach Brett wanted to go. And I'm just like, no, I got stuff I got to do, and then I'm going to watch because I always try and catch Nebraska basketball so we can talk about it. But 345 days since Nebraska's last Big Ten victory. The last win over Rutgers by 20-plus points in March of 2021. And that was the game a year ago where you're like, okay, once this is all put together, this is what Fred's offense is going to do and going to be, and it's going to be really cool. But it's been a struggle. Good for Nebraska basketball, good for Fred Hoiberg, good for Nebraska fans that went. Elijah, you went, and give me the crowd number. 6, 7?
1,000?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, it was more than 6 or 7. I can guarantee that. I'm really bad at estimating large crowds. It's really tough to do.
It was spread out.
I would have called the arena about
half,
a slightly under half, I'd say. Whenever you look at the upper sections were quite sparse. There was a lot of chance for people to move down into the lower bowl, and I think they took advantage of that. So I'd put it at a little bit.
Nobody stopped them.
Nobody stopped me.
Okay, so you bought 300 level seats and snuck on down to...
I had a friend gift me. I went with a friend and sat in 200 level, and we were looking in the first half. We went, there's like 6 seats in the front row right there, right behind JP. So we moved down and hopped in the front.
Were you in Gucci row? I mean, were you like the padded courtside? Did you pull that out?
I was not courtside. I was the first row in the lower bowl, though.
Okay.
For the second half.
Okay, so so that was open.
Yeah, it was the second closest I have ever been
to a ball game
aside from my work with Husker Vision.
Okay, well, sure. Nebraska got it handled 78-65. The streak is gone.
And it all started with those two Bryce McGowan's, the Trey McGowan's to Bryce McGowan's alley-oops early in that game. When those happened, it breathed a little bit of life into the crowd. I think the whole crowd went, okay, this Husker team is energetic tonight. I think it breathed a little life into the Husker basketball team as a whole, and it really just kick-started the game. And that's what we talked about yesterday with Coach Schmidt, the fact that this team needed something to go right for them early, and it went right with them with, 4 of their first 8 points coming on some thunderous alley-oops. It really breathed just a lot of life into the arena as a whole, the team and the fans.
They jumped out 9-2. Yeah. Minnesota didn't do much of anything from three-point land. I think 0 for 9 in the first half. Nebraska's perimeter defense was great. Minnesota's a good matchup for Nebraska down low. You look at the points in the paint differential, I think 40-18. Nebraska, Lat was rebounding. I mean, guys got challenged, guys responded, and what's important here is proof of concept. We talked about it with coaching changes and new voices and same voices in the world of sports. Eventually, if you don't see what they're telling you to do pay off, you start doubting or wondering. Well, listen, the offensive game plan by Fred it comes down to execution. And listen, even the final 5 to 7 minutes of that ball game, I mean, Nebraska didn't score the final 340, a field goal. They hit a couple of free throws, but they were not good from the free throw line. I think 15-28. Nebraska just didn't. Listen, I'm going to nitpick for 2 seconds as we smile and scream hallelujah. They won. They still made some, dumb decisions with possessions or fouling. I mean, you had to feel easy, I guess, by the time it was under a minute and you're up double digits. But Minnesota kept hitting some threes. At one point, Nebraska was up by 20, and then they kind of took their foot off the gas a little bit. They're still who they are with their shot selection and decision making. The difference is they built a lead up, and their defense carried them. Their defense takes a vacation in unison with their offense from time to time this season. There you are. But when you go get a guy like Alonzo Verge, and I thought it was really cool that the fans gave him a standing O, because as many arrows as Fred Hoiberg took this week, there's been groans, there's been people shouting at some of the games I've been towards Verge, nothing derogatory or horrible, but just like, pass the ball. I mean, there's folks that Verge's style wears on, and you just wonder if that was the right move, hindsight being 2020, with Verge in the point. Asking him, not getting him, but asking him to be a point and not a scorer first. Verge is your instant offense guy, has been his whole career. That's what he does, and he's quite capable of being an incredible point guard. He's phenomenal. He's talented. He gets to the rim, finds his teammates, and then there's the Verge that forces things. And that's just what you've lived with this year, and that's been part of the problem. Not the problem, but part of the problem. And there's been some tension with agendas with different players. Bryce was big time. He continues. Most freshmen are bug and windshield hitting a wall. Bryce has continued to get stronger and thrive. And that one he made where he got knocked down to the floor and the shot went in was nice. He drilled a big three. Not a great shot, but a great result. And then when he's running the floor with Trey, that's awesome. And that is going to juice you up as a fan. That's going to be highlight reel stuff. I mean, Bryce's performance this year as a freshman's incredible. You got to beg and plead to get him back. Ain't going to happen, I don't think. But, man, because here's what's going to happen. Trev Alberts is going to ask for a plan. What is your vision here? What is the next season? What's the next 2 seasons going to look like, Fred, at the end of the season when we get together, when we have our post-season recap? And Fred's going to say what? Well, I'm losing most of my roster again. There might be a couple of guys that come back. But the next guys I've got coming, Trev, the next crew I've got coming in are different, and they're physically and mentally stronger players. And I'm not throwing these guys under the bus. I'm just saying you need a different mental and physical makeup to win in the Big Ten than you've brought in the last 3 years. You need better puzzle pieces, more equipped to live in the Big Ten. So, because that's going to be the conversation. leading up to yesterday, if Nebraska didn't win last night, they weren't probably going to win this year. Now there's a little pep in their step. They've got some momentum. They feel good about themselves, and they see that busting their ass in practice for 2 days, paying attention to defense, playing defense, doing little things, boxing out, being physical, it was rewarding. That's why you won the game yesterday. Again, proof in concept. So if Fred's going to be back next year and Fred has some ideas of what to do for year 4, and you've got another good recruiting class, I mean, it's all about someone buying your hope. Not only the guys that you can get back on your roster, but also guys that you can bring in that can be difference makers, and maybe you have a better shot in year 4. Maybe you have better recon on who you bring in. But that conversation's going to happen sooner or later about next season, a potential year 4. We don't have any information. There's not going to be a year 4 other than, I mean, you just snapped a 15-game losing streak. You're still 1-12 in Big Ten play. So, I mean, it's a real conversation because at some point you have rubber meets the road. It's going to cost you more to keep than buy out if you continue to have double-digit losing streaks or you go on streaks where you've lost X number of consecutive games in conference. And listen, that has happened and does happen to Nebraska basketball. It happened in the Big 8, it happened in the Big 12, and it's happened in the Big 10. Doesn't matter the coach. Nebraska basketball is good or has been really good for whatever reason at losing multiple games consecutively. Some of Nebraska's best basketball teams started out 0-4 in the Big 8 years, or even an 0-4 start. I think the team that was just on the doorstep of an NCAA tournament berth that last season with Markowski and Vincent Hamilton, who was a Big 12 Player of the Year that year. So feel good about tonight. Play hard. And give it your best. Give them hell in Iowa City on Sunday ahead of the Super Bowl. We'll hear from Fred here in just a moment. Go to the phones real quick. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, we have a very special guest coming on. You hear him on high school basketball coverage here on ESPN Lincoln and KFOR. John Harris calling in.
Oh, sweet. John Harris, my man. How are you, bud?
Hey man. Good. Love listening to you. Love the perspective. Just a word about what you're talking about here. What's interesting is we have right now kind of a singular recruiting strategy. Matt Aldumason, he handles primarily the recruiting by himself. Mm-hmm. And so the question for Trev and for Fred is it possible to branch out and to do what other possible colleges do? Now, the transfer portal will kill us, but it also can be a benefit to us. Will we get a recruiting team where we can find, and forgive me for being too crass here, but not guys who nobody else wants, but guys who indeed are guys who can fit the system, who can shoot, and who will be around. And so we really have some questions to ask, but one of those questions is, will one guy continue to do all of the recruiting to the detriment of the Huskers?
Well, John, and listen, Abdelmassih was pretty good for a while at St. John's. He was really good for Fred at Iowa State. And if he is the talent evaluator and the talent acquirer, listen, on its face, he's brought guys in that can score. He's brought and got guys that a lot of other places wanted. He's went and found guys that have some D1 experience. But, man, when it comes to judging chemistry and role acceptance, you never know. That's a crystal ball none of us have, and it really kind of blew up this year.
Yeah, well, again, I don't slight the guy. I mean, he's done a tremendous job. Nobody can probably go into the house and into the room like Matt can and get him out of there. I mean, he's obviously recruiting against some of the top schools in our nation. But I think, obviously, you can't keep doing the same thing and get a different result. And as you said, something's got to change. Well, yeah. And I think I like Hoiberg. I think the way the guys played last night, I was inspired. I thought, wow. But I tell you what, you're right. For that last minute and 50-some seconds, there was some question about what are we doing?
We were all gripping the desk, wondering if this was going to be like the worst feel ever. Like, oh my God, what's going to be very Nebraska basketball?
I can count on one hand.
It's a team that just doesn't know how to win, and we saw that last night in that last minute and 30-some seconds where it was just like, what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing?
They have moments like that, unfortunately. A lot of them.
Yeah, a lot of them. But you know what? Again, I was happy for Verge last night. You could see the talent this young man has.
Oh, yeah.
His no-look pass to Walker, I think it was really was stellar. He dribbles, obviously, far too much. But you know what? There's some pieces there. Let me just go back real quick. You remember that last run that they made for 10 miles down the stretch a couple years ago where it looked like Nebraska was like the number one team in the country?
Was this the almost tournament year?
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, they ended up in the NIT. Yeah, they finished really. I think they finished 10. Well, not 10-6, but they finished top four. They finished top
there's
four.
Coaching and there's playing, but you know what? What we saw last night was just flat out effort.
Yes,
it was effort. Well, and that's what won the ball game last night.
And you got to be able to know guys that will give you the effort. And man, it's been banging your head against the wall. I'm happy for them, and they got a win, and good for Fred. John, you be good. We'll see you this weekend, bud.
Always a pleasure, brother.
Take care, man. Appreciate you. John Harris, Encouragement Unlimited, man. He is so incredible in the community, and we love having him on the radio for basketball analysis. Brandon Vogel's up next. We'll get his take. Husker loading up in the recruiting room. He'll tell you next. Hello, listener. Hey, it's Chris Schmidt with Hail Varsity Radio, and I wanted to let you know about a special deal just for listeners of the Hail Varsity Radio Show podcast. We're offering $10 off the annual subscription price of $29.99. That means that you, for less than $20, can get everything we do. 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all the premium content we produce at HailVarsity.com. Just go to HailVarsity.com/subscribe and enter in the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's HailVarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
And we're back.
Fellas, think we could listen to the radio lesson?
On Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes! That's awesome!
Oh, we have receipts in on what the SEC made last year. We welcome in Brandon Vogel to talk some Big Red. Managing editor, HailVarsity.com, and magazine at Brandon L. Vogel. Shortly, we're 15 minutes away. Baltimore punters, Super Bowl champ, our Huskers in the Super Bowl feature. Sam Koch going to be with us. So, Vogues, is basketball fixed, my friend?
Well, before we get there, I haven't seen those receipts yet. Did the SEC do okay? I was a little bit worried about them this year.
Here's what we have. The SEC announced for the 2021 revenue distribution, schools received $54.6 million. That's up from $45.5 million. Now, that helped offset $23 million supplemented from the COVID losses. Of course, you have the Big Ten that in 2020 made 54.3. So the Big Ten's dollar figure is not in yet. But as we speak now, the SEC finally has out-earned the Big Ten by $300,000. And juniors all excited for Paul Feinbaum.
He is. He's a regular caller. It's becoming a bit of a problem. Okay, but thank you for the update on the financials. Like I said, I was concerned. Back to your original question. Yeah, I think based on last night, Nebraska basketball is fixed. I'm not in any way trying to diminish what it meant to get that win. I mean, I think the impressive thing about it for me was, like, it wasn't a game where they just kind of came out and shot the lights out. They had a relatively reasonable / normal shooting percentage. You're probably not going to force turnovers on half of your possessions in the first 10 minutes all the time. I don't know if you can count on that, but you'll take it because it represented, I think something that's been lacking for this team at times is just consistent effort and a little bit of a sense of urgency. Minnesota, we know where they are kind of as a team, but we also knew where Nebraska was going into that game. So it feels a little bit better to be a Nebraska basketball fan today.
It does, and with Minnesota, they don't really turn the ball over, so that's more of a credit to what Nebraska did defensively, intensity-wise, and you just need that now to be kind of the norm versus the exception, and we'll see if the buy-in now is better, the final 7. But good for Verge, good for Fred, good for Bryce. I mean, this is hard, and I've been emailed and asked, why doesn't anybody ask tough questions? Because of, you had homeboy from Cozad do his thing on the phone earlier in the week with the coaches show, and there's a professional relationship you like to have with coaches and players that you can ask a tough question in difficult times, and it's kind of how you ask the question where, at least I think we at Hale Varsity try to come from, versus throwing the fan hat on with it. And it's okay to throw the fan hat on and have emotion as a fan, but there are ways to do it. There's a little difference in asking a guy about his results and being just a not quite anonymous, but telephone tough guy. Vogues, you got us? He had enough. Let's
effort Vogues to get back, okay?
Yeah, let's do that. That makes me sad. That's a good setup. He just said, I'm out. I bet you money Junior was probably playing with matches again, near a cat. Again's a strong word. We'll see where Vogues is at. Hope he's all right. Well, if not, I think did you spill vodka on the phone bank again? All right. Okay. Elijah's not confirming nor denying what happened. So, Vogues, we're back. I was just spitballing about asking tough questions. Let me shorten it to the 7 seconds versus the 70 minutes I was asking the question with. Your approach when it's a difficult situation and you got to ask some tough questions to coaches in a brutal year.
Yeah, I think just being direct is always the best way to go. Specifically, if you're, it's a little bit different in a press conference setting, I guess. But like, if you were to sit down with a coach, or really a player, or any interview subject, like, just kind of saying, like, hey, we're going to be real here, and these are questions that kind of my position prompts me to need to answer because they're the questions of interest to my readers. Mm-hmm. It usually goes okay. I mean, I think it's better that way than trying to like soft pedal it and dance around it. And, I thought Hoiberg did a good job answering a question from a fan that was very direct. And, and that's a situation where, as a fan, you sort of have that freedom to be as kind of plain-spoken as you want to be. And Fred did a pretty good job. He said some things that you could kind of just look at and say, well, what else are you going to say? But then they came out and won. So you kind of got to tip your hat, I guess, at least a little bit.
So I'm going to go to football now. You have Vince Ginta hired as senior director of personnel. You have Frost knowing that the portal is here to stay, and you need eyes and all hands on deck for that aspect of football. Do you like the hire? And I'll say I do because of past performance with Vince, and you can say a lot of things about the Callahan era, but they recruited their butt off. I'll give him that.
Yeah, they definitely did, and that was a name that when it kind of merged, I sort of remembered. I mean, at that period in my life, at least, I guess, I wasn't that so deeply embroiled to remember kind of everyone who was on the support staff for the Callahan era. But like you said, the results in terms of player acquisition kind of speak for themselves in that regard. So, and you know, it's, you see these things. It's never the place I would start with a coaching or staff hire of, has this person been here before? Do they understand the place? But when you can get it sort of naturally, I think it's always a little bit of a benefit. And that's the case for Nebraska here.
We're going to take Sue off the table. And I've got a list for you. Best recruit of the Callahan era. Are you going with Prince, Roy Halou, Brandon Jackson, Mo Purify, Zach Taylor? I'm sure I'm missing some.
Marlon Lucky.
Sure. Marlon Lucky shouldn't have been starting in front of Brandon Jackson, but that's just me and most of Husker Nation. Vogues, where are you going?
Yeah, it's tough for me. My gut reaction to that was Prince.
Okay.
I mean, obviously a great player, a little bit, you know, they didn't quite pluck him out of nowhere, but he was a player who, that's one where you look back on it and I feel like they got the evaluation right. And they got the evaluation right before some other people did. You know, you apply it to a little bit more of a modern context with Mo Purify coming from the junior college ranks. That's probably a little bit more of what he'll be asked to do now. But that was a pretty great one too. You know, we look at all of those. I mean, that's why you look to the junior college ranks. And now in this current era, the transfer portal a little bit is to fill an immediate hole, and you hope you find somebody who can come in is as good as you thought they'd be and makes an immediate impact. So Purify is not too far down that list for me.
Brandon, when you look at the Callahan era as a whole, has your recollection of it been affected by how bad the past 5 years has been for Nebraska? I mean, I remember whenever I was a kid, I thought 5-7, and I think a lot of Husker Nation agreed with me. 5-7 was one of the worst seasons of all time, worse than we could ever imagine. But now whenever you look back at it, you go, well, maybe it wasn't as bad as we thought.
I absolutely feel that way. I can tell you a specific story. When Nebraska played at Wake Forest, I think it was it 2006 or 2007, whichever one it was. It was right before USC came to Nebraska. And, you know, in Nebraska, I think it was 2007. So Nebraska was coming off a pretty good year in 2006 and went down to Wake Forest. And the Friday night before the game, I'm in, like, the hotel parking lot just hanging out because, you know, it's a small town, so I'm not afraid to hang out in the parking lot. And was talking to some yeah, that's actually true. I'm pretty experienced. Was talking to some Husker fans, and I specifically remember the conversation. At that time, I was like, you know what? Because, you know, the Bill Callahan era had been what it had been to that point, and even coming off a relatively strong year, if I don't have these years mixed up, it was kind of like, you know, is Bill Callahan going to win a national title at Nebraska? I was like, no, he's probably not. And at that point, I thought that was still the standard. I don't feel that way now. And I was probably I probably had the horse too far ahead of the cart then, and the cart has since caught up because, you know, in today's modern landscape, that's going to be tough. I mean, it's tough for any team. You know, we see the same handful of teams win it year after year, and that is what it is. It's kind of reality at this point. So when I look back at the Callahan era, you see some points where, if they just got this one or if they just got that one, it could have been a little bit different. But at the time, I specifically remember it being like, well, this was a terrible idea. And all of the kind of context comes with it. You know, that was the point where Nebraska broke from kind of the Vanny Osborne succession and all that stuff. So I think that all colors that era for me and probably for most people.
You know what? That was a big win against Wake. SC the following week with Game Day and Will Ferrell and Snoop. And, man, it was a scene, but Pete Carroll running 3 straight fullback traps to go 80 yards really deflated the joint. But we still have that 2-minute drill from Zach and Wake, and He was all right. So about 10 seconds. What's Junior cooking tonight?
Junior's not cooking anything. We had to pre-cook a little bit of marinara sauce, so it's going to be pretty simple pasta night here in this household. But he did just have some sweet potatoes and carrots, so he's pretty happy despite how he might sound.
The marinara will end up on the wall. Vogues, we'll talk Saturday, bud.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
Hello, listener. This is Brandon Vogel, managing editor of Hail Varsity, and I wanted to let you know about a special deal just for listeners of the Hail Varsity Radio Show podcast. We're offering $10 off the annual subscription price of $29.99. That means that you, for less than $20, get everything we produce: 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all of the premium content we produce at hailvarsity.com. Just go to hailvarsity.com/subscribe and enter the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's hailvarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Sam Koch with us from the Baltimore Ravens, Husker standout, Hail Varsity Radio. Super Bowl week, Huskers in the Super Bowl. We're talking with Sam. Sam, what are you up to, man? What are you doing?
Oh, working on my truck.
Really? What kind of truck you got?
I got an 85 Chevy K20 and just taking out the whole interior and putting an all-new wiring harness and air conditioning in it.
That's pretty awesome, man. Do you get a lot of truck time?
Well, now I get a lot of time, absolutely. Now the season's over with, so I got plenty of time to do that.
So when we talk about your pickup, your truck, do you have other vehicles? Is that a hobby, car restoration?
I just, wanted something to kind of mess around with and try to be able to figure things out that I haven't usually done. And
okay,
it was just something that I'd always enjoyed. And I know my dad did it, my brother did it, so thought it'd be something to pick up and try myself. So
that's
it's
cool.
A fun little project.
Well, we've talked in years past where you were doing bar stools and your basement bar, you were putting that in.
Yeah, I'm always got to be doing something.
Well, good for you. That's cool. Well, Sam, it's Super Bowl week, and I want to go back to Super Bowl 47 with the game against San Fran, the Ravens 34 and the Niners 31, the Hurrdat Bowl, and what an exciting finish that was. What a ball game that was, and that was your championship year. But you guys also made it a point to send Ray Lewis out a winner. Ed Reed, obviously a close friend of yours too. But what was that playoff run and then the Super Bowl like for you, knowing that guys were rallied around Ray?
Oh, it's just a very special moment knowing that he was going to be retiring at the end of the year. And, I don't know whether or not, we won because Ray was retiring or whatnot, but I know that the team itself, regardless of any retirement issue or any retirement possibilities, our team had a goal at the beginning of the year, and we had such good talent that year, and we all bought into the system. We all bought into Coach Herbel and the way he was going to coach and the way he taught us each and every day, along with the other coaches. And when you buy into a system like that and you all have a good camaraderie in the locker room, you go far in the NFL and in the playoffs and probably, in life in general. So it's definitely been that year, seeing that all unfold has definitely been a huge success and ways you can compare to other seasons.
Sam Koch is with us, Pro Bowl kicker for the Ravens, standout Husker, Hail Varsity Radio, Huskers in the Super Bowl week. Sam, you're a big chemistry guy and buy-in. It's so important, and some years are better than others in that aspect, but it seems like Baltimore's never really had chemistry issues. Guys are on the same page. And I want to go back because you guys won in New England, didn't you, on your way to the Super Bowl? I think you guys had just an incredible, I think it was a road victory, wasn't it?
Yep. Yes, it was.
Was that the springboard? I mean, it's win or go home. I get it in the postseason, but folks aren't supposed to beat New England in New England. You guys did it that year.
Correct, and I feel like we had been up there in the previous 2 or 3 years, in that same position and just couldn't capitalize, or at the AFC playoffs, conference championships, I mean, just weren't able to capitalize, and that was a year that everything was going our way, and everybody was willing to give that extra little bit to make sure that doesn't happen to us for what was the second or third time. And yes, going into Foxborough is one of those places where, with Brady as good as he is, nobody probably expected us to win, but knowing the kind of team that we had going into there, we could do whatever we wanted, and we had the right plays at the right time, and made a lot of great effort plays to win us the game, and kind of catapulted us to the Super Bowl. And it was just such a special year, looking back and kind of reminiscing on it, how wonderful and how things played out that year for us.
Sam, what was the Super Bowl like? Not just the power outage, but for you emotionally leading into it. Was it a nightmare logistically, or did it even faze you because you were so focused?
Well, one of those things with the Ravens, they make things like that so easy for us. It's a first-class organization. They try to help players out in any way possible to make sure they don't take their mind off the game and what's important, and spend time on other things like, all the logistics stuff. So they did a really good job kind of making that streamline all the way down there. The hard part was just trying to be able to enjoy it. Everything happened so quickly and fast, and your focus was just on the game, and you didn't want to lose any other focus, and yet you couldn't. It was hard to really enjoy the experience for being the first time. And if there was ever an opportunity to get back to that second time, man, definitely try to learn to enjoy the atmosphere, the situation a little bit more, because I kind of treated it like it was just another game. Didn't really do a whole lot that week, and just next time would be nice to enjoy it a little bit more.
Sam, so I've asked different folks this week as we've previewed the Super Bowl, what's for dinner on Sunday? Are you grilling? Are you smoking something? You got some of them Sam Koch fine steaks on the docket. What are you doing?
Well, a lot of the times we kind of leave it up to the boys, or if we have anybody over, kind of what the vibe is that day. We don't really have anything up on the docket. I know that in years past, it's been we had this Outlaw Barbecue up in close to us that does really good wings and meat cuts that we a lot of times go with them. So that might be what we do this year. It just depends on whether or not the boys will be here. A lot of times they like to go Buffalo Wild Wings, but I like to support some of the local businesses, and sure, that place is really good.
Sam Koch with us, a couple more minutes. Super Bowl week, Huskers in the Super Bowl. Want to go back to your old teammate, Zach Taylor, and coach in Cincy, and I know you see him in the division. What do you remember about Zach when he was at Nebraska? And I kind of bring up that senior season for you and for him, the wow win in Colorado, and then that drama-filled Alamo Bowl against Michigan. But what do you take with you from your time with Zach?
Oh, just how amazing guy he is. He's one of those most humble guys, humble players that you meet. He was there to work. He always did the right things, and just remember him how easy he was to talk to, and not enough can't really say enough nice things about the guy. And he's the same way when I see him when we play Cincinnati. He's the same way that I remember him in college, and he's just a truly remarkable man, and he's doing amazing things. And it's, to his credit, it's not surprising that he was, because the things that he did at Nebraska were just as amazing.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Sam Koch's with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Punter for Baltimore, Super Bowl champ, Super Bowl 47. And we're looking at Cincinnati and the Rams. What's your take on the Rams? And they're the favorite. When it comes to Super Bowl Sunday, do you think Cincy's got more magic in him, Sam, or do you think the Rams just too much talent?
I mean, got two strong teams going into it. And, with Matt Stafford coming over from Detroit, he's done a lot of great things there. They got depth at defense, and they got a lot of great options on offense with the Rams. But you can't count the Bengals out just because they got just as much, and they always usually have a pretty strong defense. And I know Zach is going to get them ready and be ready for this game. And having Joe Burrow, and I used to play with his brothers, kind of rooting for him in some ways because got a lot of ties with Cincinnati.
Well, enjoy your Super Bowl Sunday. Sam Koch with us, standout Raven, standout Husker. Huskers in the Super Bowl week. Sam, keep working on that truck, bud. Have some fun.
Will do. I appreciate you guys.
Pretty cool picture off on Instagram with Sam Koch and that 85 Chevy he's working on. Really looks cool. That's some some intense work he's doing on the interior, man, but good on him when it comes to fixing up and car restoration and something he grew up with. My brother-in-law, Andy, Uncle Andy, him and his dad put work in all through his teen years, and they redid a 68 Camaro Super Sport. Camaro Super Sport. It's in his garage. So I see Uncle Andy with the third stall popped up, and he looks like Will Ferrell checking in on the Red Dragon. Don't know if it's street legal or not, but he'll zoom by the neighborhood from time to time. Not wise enough nor patient enough to fix a car up.
You see, my dad was a car guy back in high school and college, and he's still got an old Model A sitting in his garage that he occasionally spends some time on.
Wow.
Yeah. But it never got passed down to me, that trait. I'm with you. I don't think I have the patience for it.
I'm a flat out idiot with anything that comes to assembly. It's more laziness than intellect, but I am very lazy with that.
Especially, I go look at the old Model A and I go, this doesn't even look like a car. It looks like a car, but you look at the inside and you go, how does this
1920s Model A?
Yeah. And then my grandpa actually had an old Model T, so hopefully we'll get the Model T and the Model A together at some point and make them a package deal.
Man, that's cool. Keep on grinding that way. It's a lot of fun. We'll check in with Jeremiah Sirles, our favorite Husker sideline man, and Viking and Charger and Panther. Where else am I forgetting?
Panther, Chargers, Vikings, Bills.
Bills. Mafia. Someone slapped me for forgetting Buffalo, but Sirles talk some NFL, talk some Husker ball with us. Gary Barnett coming up, get his take on the Super Bowl, the Waste Management Open going on in his neighborhood. And then Danny Burke, Burke's Best Bets from VSiN Sports Network. Reminder to buckle up, hands on the wheel, eyes and mind straight ahead. The driver has one job, to drive. A message from the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. Hour 2 on the way with Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Pardon the interruption, but I'd like to save you some money. Hey, it's Chris Schmidt with Hail Varsity, and I wanted to offer listeners of this podcast $10 off the price of an annual subscription. That means that you, for less than $20, can get everything we produce. 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all the premium content we produce at HailVarsity.com. Just go to HailVarsity.com/subscribe and enter in the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's HailVarsity.com HailVarsity.com/subscribe. Promo code GBR.
Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Hour 2, it's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. You can find us on Twitter at Schmidt_radio, at Herbal Essence for Elijah Herbel. And find the email, chris@hailvarsity.com. Longtime NFLer, our favorite sideline man for Nebraska football coverage, and part of let me read appropriately here, not on, but One West Sports. Certified NFL agent Jeremiah Sirles with us at Sirles71_HSKR on Twitter. Sirles, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How about yourself?
We're good. We're good. You fired up here? Super Bowl about to happen.
Yeah, man. I'm super excited. I do hate the bye week in between the Super Bowl or the conference championships and the Super Bowl. I feel like it kind of loses some of the magic of the Super Bowl, of the playoffs, of all that. But you know what? It gets teams healthier and should make for better games. So, I don't know. I'm all about it.
So if I said, Sirles, do you want to go to the Pro Bowl with me next year? You say what?
I'd slap you in the face.
You weren't feeling it. I had friends that went. Jay Bird and company and his kids went. I think they had a good time, but man, that was a little light on contact, man.
Yeah, the only person that got hit was the guy that was messing with Alvin Kamara.
No, yeah, that was the best hit of the weekend.
Too soon?
Well, no.
Don't think.
Hey, here's the thing: if Alvin tells me to not step into a full elevator, not going to do it.
Yeah, just don't do it. I don't know, but at the same time, also you have to understand you just can't hit people.
No,
just the way it goes.
You can't hit people 8 times.
Yes, once or twice maybe acceptable, but 8's kind of where you have to draw the line.
Well, I think the craziest thing about this story is that allegedly the Las Vegas Police Department and the NFL worked in conjecture to make sure Alvin didn't get arrested until after the Pro Bowl.
Oh, I know. He's like, we know where you're going to be. Go play. The NFL's like the
Imagine if he would have had to wear an ankle bracelet. Imagine they would have strapped a little ankle bracelet on, like, hey, you can't leave the premises.
Imagine if they arrested him during the game. That would have made the Pro Bowl watchable.
The halftime show brought to you by Chico's Bail Bonds.
Oh, my gosh. It'd be incredible.
Sirles, have you ever went full Wookiee on a fan? Like, you've thought about it, right? I mean, have you ever been out in your pro career or college career and someone just was too overserved and they just let you have it? Like, did you ever have a Fred Hoiberg moment up close and personal instead of a phone call that was at the bar?
No, I never had that happen to me, luckily. The one time it happened to me when we were playing is when we lost in Texas A&M and they rushed the field. And I was trying to run off the field, and this guy kept just getting in my face and trying to yell at me. And I eventually just kind of sped up a couple steps and just kind of dropped him as I ran off the field with the old lower the shoulder. And that was about the most I've ever gotten into it with a fan.
So there was no full, well, there was a camera guy. Now there's no more camera. And the Carl moment, I guess, is where I'm going.
Yeah. I mean, that's essentially where it's like this dude just wouldn't get out of my face. I eventually just dropped the shoulder on him a little bit, and he went down, and I just kind of ran into the locker room quickly because I was upset. We should have won that freaking game.
Well, who on earth would think that's a good idea? Like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go get in the face of the guy who's 6'7", and his whole job is to move 290-pound men against their will. Like, who thought that was a good idea?
The 23-year-old or 22-year-old smoked off of his butt, off of beers all night at Texas A&M. I mean, I've been dumb. I've had enough pops to do something stupid like that before too, so I can't play innocent here.
Who did you rush? Whose face did you get into?
It was Yeah, that's a story for over a few more pops, not necessarily this one. Maybe we'll get into that one.
Was he wearing the all white "Let's invade Poland" thing? I mean, was he that A&M guy?
Maybe.
Okay, so it was one of them toy soldiers at A&M. I get you.
Yes, it was definitely one of the toy soldiers.
Oh man, was he waving the white towel too?
I think he had the white gloves on, but I don't know. I wanted to stick his trumpet up something else.
You almost heard a band member. All right, we'll get off the...
Don't get in the way. The pain train's coming.
No, right on. All right, let's talk about Austin Allen. Awesome performance and work for him in front of the All-Star game. And Sirles, let's talk about Austin and just some of his projections and prospects here. What's the latest you're hearing?
Yeah, so I was out there with Austin in L.A. at the NFLPA game. He had, again, like you said, phenomenal week. He actually played himself into a combine invite, so he's on his way to Indianapolis. That starts March 1st for them, so super excited for him. A lot of scouts were concerned about it. How does he move? How does he run? And I think that he alleviated a lot of that showcasing what he can do at that PA game. It's just going to continue to show. I mean, we all know him here in Nebraska as such an athlete, such a weapon, that I think sometimes he's even underutilized a little bit here in Nebraska to the point where people were not really seeing how much of a weapon he was till the end of the year here. And so he was a late riser, but, I mean, scouts saw him quickly. They see the measurables, and they see how he's going to run, and he's going to find himself a nice home in the league.
JoJo, incredible week, and I know that during the scrimmage portion, he was really good with coverage. He was good in the kind of getting downhill one-on-one tackling drills. They played him quite a bit in the box last Saturday versus being outside. What do you think of JoJo and in his fit in the league? Do you look at him as a slot/hybrid? Do you look at him as getting to try at linebacker like a Nate Gary did with Philly? Or do you see him being just a really talented and athletic safety?
You know, I think that all those things you just named, there could be 4 or 5 teams that view him as one of those things. It's really just going to be about what team has a clear vision for what JoJo Domann is. In my opinion, I think he's that hybrid linebacker safety type like the Nate Gary, where you're looking for those safeties now, or those linebackers that can walk up into the box and be physical enough to go make tackles and tackle a running back in space, but also if they're running an RPO or if they're running a tight end up the seam on a play action, he can turn and run with them with the best of them. And JoJo had a phenomenal week down there. I think he showcased a lot of his raw ability, and we know his speed. His closing speed has just always been something that's popped off the tape to me specifically. And he went down there and he absolutely showed out against the best in the country. And so he made himself some money, but again, it's going to be about a team finding the right fit for what they really believe he could do for them.
Any NFL comps? Does he remind you of anybody aside from Gary? I mean, any guys you played with in Buffalo or Carolina or Minnesota?
You know, I think in Buffalo, he's kind of a little bit like Matt Milano. Not quite as big. He's not quite as big as Matt, but Matt's one of those super rangy and really athletic linebackers that can run. And I think that that's kind of how you view JoJo, is you view him as that guy that can run and go. And then Buchanan's another one that played safety that moved to linebacker for Arizona, who was a little undersized. He played linebacker like 225, but he would just run around and thump you. So I think he's kind of a mix between Milano and Buchanan for Arizona.
Jeremiah Sirles with us, Hail Varsity Radio. So what is Sirles' plans for Sunday Super Bowl? What do you got going?
I actually leave for Mexico tomorrow morning. My wife and I and a couple of friends from church are heading down to Cancun to just kind of regroup, recharge. Us on the road 21 days in January, so wife needed a little break from the kiddos, so we're going to go down there for 5 days. So I'll be parked on a beach sipping Mai Tais watching the Super Bowl.
Look at you. You and Mexico are no stranger, my friend, and that is that's good Valentine's Day planning, man.
Yes, Valentine's, it's going to be anniversary, kind of all rolled into one. And I love Mexico, man. You just show up and you just belly up to a bar and they feed you and they treat you great. Mexico, if I could move to Mexico and live all-inclusively for the rest of my life, I would.
You got sticks? You bringing any golf clubs?
Absolutely not. You can find me at the swim-up pool.
So, what are the odds that you come back home with a sunburn?
100%.
100%. Okay.
If you're a betting man, you bet 100% bet the farm on that one. I don't care how much sunscreen I wear. This pale, pasty white winter body is getting fried.
Yep.
Dude, Sirles FaceTimes and just absolutely taunts that he's in sunny, warm Mexico, and he'll time it where the drink is empty, so you just hear the straw.
Yep.
And then he'll hang up.
The ice crinkles against the sides of the glass.
Yeah, you hang up then immediately. It's just like a 5-second, the drink is done. So what happens Sunday? What happens Sunday here?
I think that if they played the game last Sunday where Cincy didn't have the bye week, I think Cincy gives them more of a run. But I think the Rams roll here strictly off the fact that Cincy kind of lost the momentum here with the 2 weeks. The Rams, in my opinion, are the better football team. They have the better defensive line, the better receivers. The only thing that I think the Rams have maybe not as good or equal is the quarterbacks. I think Stafford and Joe Burrow's play level right now is pretty comparable. But everywhere across the board, you look across and everywhere else, I give the nod to the Rams. And so usually these games come down to who's the best team, but Joe Burrow's the ultimate X factor. But if I had to put a score prediction on it, I would say I think it's going to be like 35-17 Rams.
Now, Jeremiah, you yourself were a guy who really could play tackle, could play guard, could mix and match along the offensive line. And the Bengals have been doing a lot of that this season with their patchwork offensive line. So I was just wanting to ask you if that offensive line can be aided by the fact that the Bengals have an extra week when you're going up against pass rushers like Aaron Donald and Von Miller.
Sometimes it's good just to be kind of flying by the seat of your pants when you just kind of get thrown in there and you're not really worried about game plan. You're just going out there and performing. When you get 2 weeks to watch tape and 2 weeks to really try and you can almost over-evaluate pass rushers of Von Millers, the Aaron Donalds, the Leonard Floyds, and try and think too much instead of just playing. And versus them, they're just going to go out there and be athletic, right? Like they don't have a ton of planning. They just defenders are blind dogs in the meat house, right? Just see ball, sick ball. They just run. As an offensive lineman, you really can break it down technically as far as how you want to attack them. And sometimes when you have so much time, it can really come back and bite you. Similar to 2017, we were kind of throwing together our offensive line, and then eventually we had kind of this patchwork offensive line. We beat the Saints in the divisional, and we got up to the Philly, and it all just kind of fell apart. And so for our sakes, for the country's sakes, I hope that it doesn't fall apart at the worst possible moment for the Bengals, but I can also kind of see that happening as well.
Worst experience to bring this full circle, Philly or A&M?
Philly was terrible, dude. We had a chance to go play the Super Bowl in our home place in Minneapolis, and we were rolling that year. That one sucked.
Fan base, though, it's one thing to have Soldier in face, and then there's Philly fan.
Then there's the 8-year-old double birds in your face.
Yeah, does Philly live up to their reputation?
Yeah, Philly, absolutely. I mean, they were pouring beers all over Case Keenum's family, and they were greasing up the light poles in the middle of the day because they thought that if they won or lose, they were going to riot. Philly fans are trash.
Yeah, they're tough. Not all, but the ones you experienced, I'm sure.
I'd never expect it from the city of brotherly love.
Dude, I mean,
yeah.
They got that name to throw you off. Okay.
Yeah, no doubt.
Sirles, enjoy Mexico. Get lots of tequila, frozen. Get the salt rim, and for sure go with the non-well tequila. But enjoy with time with your family and friends.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys having me on. Miss you guys. Go Big Red.
There he is, Jeremiah Sirles, our favorite sideline man with Nebraska. And 6-year NFL vet with the Chargers, with the Bills, and with Carolina and the Vikings. He was on cloud 9 that 2017 run, and he was so good about coming on with his bless his heart leading up to the Saints game, like day after the Saints miracle in Minneapolis finish, where the safety mistimed things and you had a miracle touchdown. And then in Philly was a really good squad, but you want to talk about just full meltdown after winning. that fan base. Got to be a little bit careful. My pastor's a Philly fan.
See, and I have distinctive memories of that day, that Minneapolis Miracle Day, because I was working in the kitchen at a big-name rehabilitation hospital in town. There's only one of them, so...
you were working? Did you have radio on?
Well, the thing was I had requested off all the Sundays, and they said, well, we're not sure we can do that, but will you be willing to go on call for these days in the kitchen? I go, okay, fine. And I of course, got called in that day, and the compromise I made was, let me have my phone out, let me have these games pulled up, I'll be streaming them, it won't bother anything. And so I got to watch the Minneapolis Miracle live. I was going crazy in the kitchen.
You're banging pots. All right. Good enough. We will spend time with Gary Barnett in just a touch. We'll get his take on things. Waste Management Open going on down there in Phoenix, and Barney, of course, down in Scottsdale, so we'll get caught up with him. VSiN Sports Network, all of your prop bets, some great angles with Danny Burke from VSiN, the Pride of Chicago. Burke's Best Bets coming up at 5:40. Tomorrow, we are loaded for you with more Super Bowl thoughts and some insight on Cincinnati. Husker and College Football Hall of Famer Dave Rimington with us for an extended sit-down. Bill Dolman from the Olympics, excited to talk with Bill. And we'll have Russ Hochstein on. Russ will talk Patriot experience, the latest on Brady, and plenty of your thoughts as we turn towards the weekend. Podcast, subscribe to us, Hail Varsity Radio, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Subscribe, tell us what you think. Coach Barnett next on Hail Varsity.
He's in his 30s, but sounds like he was born with a stogie in one hand and a brew in the other.
Now, say my name.
It's Schmidt on Hail Varsity Radio.
I got the body of a taut, preteen Swedish boy.
Back into it. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Let's talk to the Hall of Fame coach with Colorado and Northwestern. Also in the Missouri Football Hall of Fame, Gary Barnett with us. Coach, how we doing?
Doing well, Chris. Getting ready for the big weekend here between the Super Bowl and down here we've got the Waste Management, which is the greatest show on grass. You can't get anywhere close to that course right now. It's just packed. So yeah, I mean that's really good TV watching that tournament. So between that and the Super Bowl, and then next year we've got them both down here at the same time, which we've done a couple of times, but it gets crazy down here about that time.
I bet. Now, I thought about we were playing with maybe going down this time of year to try and get to the Waste Management Open. I know my folks and friends, they've done it in the past. But it's a good time. It's a party, but it's hard to get into. You were touching on just how difficult it is. Have you been recently, or have you been ever?
I haven't been for about 4 years.
Okay.
And you know what? I never want to go down there, but when I go down there, I enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And so I don't sit anywhere. I just follow some of the golfers around, and for me, that's a lot of fun. But it's just amazing how good they are. And a lot of those guys where I play here in Arizona, a lot of them come out and practice during the week, so they've been here all week, and so you get to watch them, and it's just amazing to see how good they really are. But I do enjoy it. It's great people watching down there, but it is one big party. They're expecting 1 million people down there this year. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
So have you golfed with anybody else famous?
Oh, no, nobody's going to stoop that low.
No, really? I mean, you just, by chance, hey, there's Chuck Barkley or Phil, hey, Coach, come be a fourth?
Actually, Barkley was in front of me this week, as a matter of fact, and Justin Thomas was here. And so there's a lot of guys here. But, yeah, Barkley's out here. He's been out really a couple times in the last 2 weeks.
You ever hit into him?
Well, some people that I was playing with didn't know who he was, and all they said is "You better not hit into him. That's a pretty big guy up there." So, They didn't know who it was, but
be careful.
He's pretty mellow.
Yeah,
Charles is pretty mellow.
He seems like it. Gary Barnett's with us. So Super Bowl's the next question. Have you been, and are you thinking about going next year?
You know what? I haven't been, and I've wanted to go, but frankly, I think I really enjoy watching it in my house or, maybe with some friends. Usually I like watching it by myself or with Mary. So, and this year I'm going to do the same thing. I mean, I'm not going, but I look forward to the whole thing. I don't get a whole lot out of all the stuff around it. I just like the game pretty much. So that's sort of what I'm looking forward to. I like the drama in this game, the two quarterback matchups. One guy that's been sort of a journeyman stuck up in Detroit, and now he gets his chance, and the other guy doesn't really know. He doesn't even know what pressure is. He doesn't even know what, he's been in 2 championship games now in his last 3 years. So it's pretty amazing. And, it's going to be interesting to watch whether Stafford old ghosts creep in on a veteran guy like that, or whether, like in Burrow's case, whatever happens just seems to run right off his back. So it's going to be interesting to see which one avoids the big mistake.
Well, and that's just it. There's the Cinderella story, and that's not a slight towards Cincy, but listen, they're a good enough team to be a playoff team, but we're talking Super Bowl, and look who they've gone through to get there. Does it become a nightmare Sunday? And I say that because Aaron Donald is incredible. Von Miller can crank it up. You have Joyner. I mean, we're talking 3 levels of Hall of Fame, man. And Cincy's defense has been really good, and I guess the counter to that is, to your point about ghosts, Stafford has been mistake prone. Burrow hasn't been, and we talked to Joe's brother and dad, and they're just all excited, man. They're super happy, and Joe's grandpa lives a few miles in southeast Nebraska away from Lincoln, and he's got his Bengals gear on, and they're all making the trip, and it's getting closer, obviously. And no, I'm excited. 4.5 though. If you had a lean, do you go Rams just because of their defense?
I think yes, and I like Stafford's experience. I think that would help me make that decision, but it just takes one injury, and this whole game gets turned around. So you don't know. It's all, if Darnold gets hurt or Donald gets hurt or even Miller or Stafford, then that game can change pretty quickly. I do like the way the Bengals run the football. I mean, both those backs are pretty good, and I think the guy that may be the key is Cam Akers for the Rams. I think he's just, if he can play full speed, he is a force to contend with, as long as he doesn't fumble the ball.
Yeah, he's awesome, and I was kind of wowed by his fumbling issues against Tampa. Mixon's been playing great ball as well. Chase, though, Chase has just been a beast. I know the Rams have the personnel to try and D him up, but Chase and Burrow's connection's been a lot of fun to watch. Gary Barnett's with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. So are you picking Rams? Are you giving the points?
Yeah, I think I'd pick the Rams, but gosh, I'm not betting any money. I'm not betting your money. I'll bet your money on it, but I'm not betting mine.
You better bet Mama's money. Gary Barnett's with us. Coach, I thought here, didn't get to it last week, but wanted your reaction to kind of some of the drama surrounding Michigan, and it wasn't until the evening that Michigan made their announcement that Harbaugh was back. Gaddis is off to Miami to work for Cristobal. So you've got another OC shakeup at Michigan, but Harbaugh was really looking to Minnesota and some other NFL landing spots before he came back to Michigan. What's your reaction to what Michigan went through and then the timing of it right as signing day's happening?
Well, the timing date is a little awkward, but you can't control that when those openings come up, and you just got to deal with it. And the best, the early signing date probably would have been more critical than the late signing date. But I've been a part of that, and it's uncomfortable for a while. It's you just don't go back and things are normal. It's not that way. You go in the offices and you're around the presidents and you're around this and that, and it's awkward and uncomfortable until really next year's season gets going, and it has to wear off. And for a while, it's an uncomfortable situation for everybody.
Do some of the presidents and leaders of the universities take it a bit too personal when it comes down to opportunities and finances? I mean, do they have long memories is my question, because there's no difference in. I mean, a lot of these presidents have hopped from different universities from time to time. They've done the same thing. Well, and they've got a lot on their plate other than just a football coach. Yeah. So they probably handle it better than boosters do. Gotcha. And players. So now presidents, they deal with a lot of stuff, and that's just one of the things on their plate. Coach Gary Barnett's with us. Coach, we'll get you out of here on this, and it's fun to talk with you. Waste management, Super Bowl, golf, and of course, some college football. What's your take on Auburn, Brian Harsin? I know there's storm clouds there, and it doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound long-term, and it sounds to me like Auburn's searching for a way to get rid of him. Well, I think you go back, Chris, and you really wonder about the fit in the first place. And I talked to somebody close to that program this week that knows the ins and outs down there, and apparently – Auburn is run by the boosters. The athletic department has been run. The presidents have sort of had to knuckle under to boosters. And from what I understand, the hiring of Harsin took place by an outgoing president who just sort of stuck his thumb in the air, his nose in the air, and said, I'm going to leave you guys with this. Go figure it out. So, rather than succumb to the boosters, he hired somebody completely different than what everybody wanted. I think the boosters wanted to hire Kevin Steele, and then he left. So the new president stuck with the hire, and he stuck with the whole situation. And I think it's going to be interesting. If the boosters prevail, I don't think Harsin will be around. And if they do prevail, then it's just going to be more of Auburn drama, because it's been that way for a long time. I mean, they got rid of Gus Malzahn, the only guy to beat Saban. So, I think that's one of those programs that is out there in the SEC that has probably got too much booster control from the top down. That sounds just toxic. So if the boosters win, do they go get Steele? I mean, he just landed in Miami and turned Maryland down. Well, but he's a defensive coordinator, so he's going to come as a head coach no matter what. Right. And yeah, so I mean that may be who they go after. I don't think you have to worry about where he is or where he just went. I think if that's the guy you want, they go get him and he'll go. So I don't know. I'm assuming that's what they would go after, but I'm not in on that one. Gary Barnett, we'll see what shakes out. Coach, enjoy your Super Bowl Sunday. Wings and ribs sound like a deal, and hit them far and straight today. Thanks for a few minutes. All right, Chris. Great being with you. Good stuff from Gary Barnett. Didn't hit into Charles Barkley. Good for him. And, man, some insight on Auburn and the cameras. I mean, there was like 12 deep of cameras with the SEC coaches meetings today. And Harsin was being followed like he was a member of the royal family and tried to get into the passenger side. I just wish I had Coach Leach mic'd up when they went around the table. Hey, Harsin, how you doing? What's new? Oh, Kevin Steele wants one more shot as a head coach. Maybe Auburn is in his future. Like what you hear? High-quality radio and podcast is part of what we do at Hail Varsity. Hey, it's Chris Schmidt with Hail Varsity Radio, and I wanted to offer listeners of the Hail Varsity Radio Show podcast $10 off the price of an annual subscription. That means that you, for less than $20, can get everything we produce. 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all the premium content we produce at HailVarsity.com. Just go to HailVarsity.com/subscribe and enter in the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's HailVarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Burke's Best Bets, VSiN Sports Network. It is Danny Burke, Pride of Chicago, at Danny Burke 5 on Twitter. His podcast, his show, Rush Hour. Pride of Chicago, my friend, it is Super Bowl time to hit some side bets, to do the over/under, to do the line. Let's go down the list, my friend. How are you?
I am doing good, Schmitty. It's exciting, right? I mean, the time is finally here. It's awesome to look at all these bets and props for the Super Bowl, but the thing is, it almost gets to a point where it's like, can we just play the dang game already? Because you get 2 weeks off in between it, especially us, at VSiN. We're talking about all these different props. We're like, can we finally start playing? But now, man, I'm excited. You got anything special going on for the game?
Oh, I will leech somewhere to eat and drink for free.
Love it.
That's my thing.
The best thing you got to do.
Are you throwing the Super Bowl party or attending the Super Bowl party?
I think it's 50-50 right now. We might be having some people over, or my buddy might be having some guys over at third place. But either way, I know there'll be plenty of food and drinks flowing, so we'll be excited regardless and be screaming at the TV for every, nonsensical play that everyone else will just be like, why are you getting mad about that? So it's the best time of the year.
An angry Danny Burke. There we go. Okay, any props you love? A doinked field goal, the upright, the anthem, who scores first? Does Akers get in? What are you feeling?
Oh, man. All right. Well, I've talked about plenty of them, as I've already alluded to. I'll give you the 4 that I have officially right now, and then I could throw some leans out there as well. So we could start with the Bengals, and I may have touched some of these with you, but we'll go over them again. So the Bengals' first half field goals made over a half, -143. So this is me betting on Cincinnati, Evan McPherson just making 1 field goal in the first half. I talked about it 2 weeks ago, when they were playing Kansas City. But when you're going in a game against a prolific offense, in a game where they're coming in as an underdog, they know that, we know that, and I still think they are the rightful underdogs. In a situation like that, you're going to want to get on the board as often as possible in the first half, right? It doesn't matter if it's a field goal or it's a touchdown. I mean, it does. But my point being is you're more prone to settling for a field goal in the first half than you would in the second half. If it's like 4th and 4, 4th and 3, you're probably okay with just getting points on the board at the beginning stages of this game as opposed to the second half, whereas if you're trailing, you want to be more aggressive and go for it. And in a majority of games, and I think in every single postseason game, because, sorry, I don't have the notes from you right now, but McPherson's gone over that in every first half so far this postseason, so I'm banking on the fact he does it again. So Bengals first half field goal over a half, -143. Another bet I did revolved around the Bengals. Joe Mixon under 65.5 rushing yards, -1.25. I think this number's come down a little bit, but my thought process here is that, look, you're going against one of the best run defenses in the NFL. You got a terrible offensive line, and you're going against Aaron Donald and Von Miller. And Joe Mixon's great. Don't get me wrong. He's only gone over this once this postseason, and I think only 5 opposing running backs had gone over this against the Rams, and nobody in the postseason. Leonard Fournette was the closest with like 55. That speaks volumes to how great this defensive front is to the Rams, and also just the fluidity of this game, right? I mean, what's going to come to fruition? And to me, it's going to be, well, they're going to be conservative at first, but then you realize, hey, it's the Super Bowl. Running game ain't going to work. We got to pass it. And maybe they'll be trailing early on. So I don't think they rely on Mixon in the running game as much. So I'm betting him under 65.5 rushing yards. Furthermore, another bet that I did, and we might have touched on this last time, but I like the Rams over 20.5 first downs at -125. So the Rams are averaging about 21 per game, and the Bengals are allowing opponents about 21.5, and every opponent has gone over that except for Tennessee in the postseason against the Bengals. Look, the Titans have a terrible offense. We knew that going into it. Ryan Tannehill can't do squat, so I'm not taking that too much into account. And I think Kansas City and Las Vegas got like 24 and 25 respectively. So the Rams had gotten over that against the Bucks, and then against the 49ers. They stayed under it against the Cardinals. But taking that into context, guys, look, they didn't need to do anything offensively. It was really boom type of plays offensively that the Rams had against Arizona, and then good field position due to the lack of dominance from the Cardinals. So I think the Rams get over 20.5 first downs. And then my other official prop I have, the punter for the Bengals, Hubert, longest punt over 52.5 yards, minus 129. So I think he's gone over this one in 2 out of the 3 postseason games. The only one he didn't was against the Titans. And in games that were in domes or similar to domes, because SoFi is like a dome, but it's technically not because the sides are open. But regardless, I don't think the wind is going to be a factor. He's averaging over 52.5 for his average punting yards anyways. So it's kind of a unique one, an odd one. No one wants to do kicking, let alone punting. But if you're looking for some of these weird betting angles, I think one like Huber, longest punt, over 52.5 yards at minus 129 is a good outlook as well.
Danny, when I'm watching this game, what I'm going to be watching for is 2 of the best wide receivers in the game, Cooper Kupp and Jamar Chase. Cooper Kupp's receiving yardage total set at 107.5. As for Jamar Chase, he's set a little bit lower at, I believe it's 82.5. Do you like either of those numbers, either of those guys going over those receiving yards total?
You know, Jamar Chase is tricky. You're going up against Jalen Ramsey, so I think that's too hard of a matchup to handicap. If you're looking for anything out of that matchup, I'd probably do Jalen Ramsey over 3.5 tackles, assuming Jamar Chase may be a frequent target. You can look at that type of betting angle for Ramsey to get over his tackling props. They count full tackles and assists, so that would be a decent look. I'm not really too crazy about his receptions or receiving yards. I think it's set appropriately. And honestly, same with Cooper Kupp. But the difference with Cooper Kupp is I think you have to bet the over or you stay away from it. There's no betting the under for Cooper Kupp for me. I mean, this dude's just been way too consistently dominant. And to think he's going to shrink in this type of game, that would be shocking to me. So it would be over or nothing out of Cooper Kupp. But I said I'd give you a lean. And I think one revolving around the receivers would be Jefferson out of the Rams, over about 31.5 receiving yards, I think was the lowest I saw. It's kind of creeping up to like 33 in the hook. But, look, he's averaging over 40 receiving yards per game. He's gone over 31.5 in a majority of his contests. And if you assume that the Bengals can at least somewhat maybe contain Cooper Kupp, or all the attention's on him, all the attention's on OBJ, that's going to free up the space for Jefferson. And really, you don't need high volume out of him. You just need one big play, and that's how he got over it against the Cardinals this postseason. And he has gotten an increased workload, or target share, rather, as we've gone on throughout the postseason. So I think the strong lean you should consider would be Jefferson over his receiving yards.
Danny, real quick, over, under, and who wins? You taking Cincy in the points or the Rams outright?
Man, I'm sorry. I feel like everybody out there is rooting for Burrow, but I'm going with the Rams here. I'm laying the 4 with Los Angeles. Total, you know, I'd probably lean a little bit toward the over. I think the number's going to get bet back up, but I'm not going to touch that one ultimately. But I am going to lay the 4 with Los Angeles. I think Stafford gets his Super Bowl ring finally.
Danny, I'm going to trust your word here. Last thought. What color is that Gatorade bath going to be at the end of the game?
We were talking about this on my show a little bit. It's ridiculous, but there is some thought process to it. You're not going to pick a color that may stain the winning jersey because they're going to hang it up in Canton, is what another host on my show said, and I think that actually makes sense. But I would probably go with the green/lime and yellow. That combination would probably be my Gatorade color bet.
Lemon lime.
Lemon lime, says Danny Burke with the Gatorade douse. VSiN Sports.
Lock,
Danny Burke, the Gatorade color lock. At Danny Burke 5 on Twitter. Find him there, and of course listen to him on the VSiN Sports Network with Rush Hour, and of course the Danny Burke podcast. Danny, we'll catch up next week. Thanks for the time, bud.
As always, guys, you too. Enjoy the Super Bowl.
We'll wind out a Thursday next on Hail Varsity.
Like what you hear? High-quality radio and podcasts are just part of what we do at Hail Varsity. I'm Brandon Vogel, managing editor. I wanted to offer listeners of the Hail Varsity Radio Show podcast $10 off the price of an annual subscription. That means that you, for less than $20, You can get everything we do, 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all of the premium content we produce at HailVarsity.com. Just go to HailVarsity.com/subscribe and enter the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's HailVarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at HailVarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time on a Thursday, Hail Varsity Radio. Subscribe to the podcast. It don't cost you nothing. But give us a rating. Give us some feedback, what you like or don't. All good. In the comments section, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Hail Varsity Radio. Also, the on-demand section, ESPN Lincoln on Twitter and ESPNLincoln.com. The on-demand under Hail Varsity on the website. Go there. And then the Twitter handle, going to have the SoundCloud ready to rock and roll for you. Some of the highlights, some of the best parts of today's show. So, currently, as we look at the seedings in the NBA, Philly at 5, Nets at 8, and Brooklyn 4 games over 500, Philly 10. The monster trade, Harden and Ben Simmons. And the question is, who got the better end? Right? And don't kid yourself, it's either Mr. Miyagi or Harden pulling a Forrest Gump, as shown on Twitter once he got out of Brooklyn. I'm healthy now. So that right hamstring issue. Listen, Ben Simmons, he had an awful finish to the playoffs. High draft pick. Guy that's just been a freak athlete, has always been able to out-athlete people even in college. And you get to the NBA, ain't the case. He's just a brutal shooter. You have point guards that maybe score first 20-point-a-game guys at about every level, but you got to continue to work on your game. And Simmons never just either he can't or won't or it hasn't mattered. He's just such an atrocious jump shot guy. Athletic as all get out, can get to the rim, and isn't super selfish as a point guard. I mean, I look at Harden as like the ultimate selfish point guard, but offenses have been designed for him to be a scoring point guard, right, where it's clear out, and he'll have 15 assists with 40 points. And he's better than Westbrook, not as an athlete, but just as a shooter, clearly. So who won the deal? I mean, Brooklyn's been a mess with Kyrie. KD's hurt. And then you still have Embiid, and he's going to Harden. There's familiarity with the Philly GM. They've been reunited. So I guess if you put a gun to my head, who are you taking? I say neither. Legit, I don't want either on my team. That sounds stupid. I'm not Mr. NBA. I get it. They're super talented. But you've got 3 years remaining on Simmons' deal, and he's going to the smaller market, even though it's technically in New York, but Brooklyn's a smaller market squad. I don't know. I think both are just problem children.
And see, my problem with Harden going to Philly is James Harden still hasn't proved himself to be capable in a situation where he's the second scorer. And in Philly,
he's always got to be the scorer.
And in Philly, it's still going to be Joel Embiid. He's an MVP candidate for a reason. He's been having an incredible year.
Yeah, he's awesome and he's healthy.
So I don't think Harden's going to walk in there and be the number one scoring option. So how is that going to work?
Is he okay with that finally at this point in his career?
I guess we'll find out.
It's not worked his way being the guy.
There's a funny quote from an NBA guy anonymously today that said, Harden's going to have a tough time finding a teammate to talk for him at his Hall of Fame induction somewhere down the road.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's a different dude. Simmons is just an athlete that can get to the rim.
Yeah, and at least he can dish it off to KD and Curry with that Brooklyn team. So I would probably lean towards Brooklyn, but I'm kind of with you.
I mean, I know it's dominated ESPN all day, but I mean, both teams have underachieved with that talent. Talk to you at 4 tomorrow.
A Hurrdat Media Production.